Okay, today we're going to start on 113. Kufir Gimel Amid Beis. I'm going to start from Rabbibi. Amar Rav Bibi Bar Gidl. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In this course of our learning, we should have the base of English immediately. Okay. It says like this. Amar Rav Bibi Bar Gidl, Amar Rav Shimon Chasida. Morning. Gezel Kanani Aser. You're not allowed to steal from a Kanani, from a non-Jew. But if you find an object that he lost, you don't have to return it. You're allowed to keep it. Now the Gemara explains the source for these two statements. Gazela Yasi, you're not allowed to steal from him. Damar Rav Huna, because Rav Huna taught Minayin Legesel Kanani Shuasa. How do we know that if someone steals from Kanani, that stealing from a Kanani is prohibited? And you will consume all the nations that Hashem your God has given to you, which is which is when they're given to you, but not if they're not given to you, which means that if you conquer them, then you can take what they have and conquer it as in battle. But just that they happen to be living there, that doesn't mean you're allowed to. You're living there, then you're not allowed to take what they own. Yeah.
We get this from David that is being redeemed.
That was a different source. Yeah. Yesterday we had a different source. That we had a source from the Eved that's being redeemed from a guy. Now we have a source that it's only in they're conquered in battle that you can keep there. Any comment on this?
Is there a distinction here between an idolater or a Noahide? Sometimes it mentions idolater.
Yeah, the Kanani. I don't know. I wonder what do they say Kanani in here? Do they say Akum? What do they say?
It says Gentile, yeah.
And what's the Hebrew? Gezel Goy. Oh, so my Gemara is censored. My Gemara was talking about, it says Kanani, so that the printers, with the Christian printers, wouldn't think it's referring to them. So it says a Kanani. Kanani means like one of the ancient tribes. They're not around anymore, so don't worry about it. But the Steinsaltz, which takes away all these things, they have Gezel Goy. What do you have, Reb Naftali, in yours? Do you have Kanani?
Yeah. Kanani.
Yeah, we have the censored version.
Yeah. Yesterday they had a similar thing with regards to disagreeing with Hashem. And then
Right. What does the article have? Gezel Kanani. They have the what's it called? They have the censored one. Yeah.
So Masurin Biadka means spoil of war.
That means that you have absolute control over them. So, which means that they were conquered. Here they translate when they're delivered into your hands. Let's see, 19. The verse implies that the Israelites may take the property of their foes only during battle and not at any other time. That's the Yam Shel Shleima. Thus, with the exception of battle, robbing a pagan is biblically prohibited. Rabbi Akiva derived this prohibition from a different source. The redemption that we learned yesterday of the Jewish slave from the Canaanite. Although Rav Huna and Amira derives the prohibition from another verse, he would not disagree with the ruling of Rabbi Akiva. Consequently, Rav Huna's words, when they are delivered into your hands, must denote the time of their defeat in battle. But as for a pagan living under Jewish jurisdiction, Rav Huna agrees that Torah forbids stealing from it. Yeah. So in order to reconcile, because Rabbi Akiva said before, it doesn't just mean if you have control over them, that if you have control over the land. That's how they're resolving this. Yeah. Okay, that's regarding theft. Actually says Gezel, which is robbery. I'm not sure if there's a distinction here between gezel or gneva.
It's like a war thing. They don't
Right,
mind.
but is there a difference between if it's opened or if it's hidden? Later on, I think we're going to come to something like that.
If it's war, they'll do it openly.
1 second.
If they conquer them, they don't have to like really be a thief. They just go openly and take it.
Yeah, but let's say they didn't. So is there a difference? Okay, so avidasim luteras, an object that was lost by a non-Jew, a Canaanite for our Gemaras, or a non-Jew for the other one. So it's permissible to keep. You don't have to return it. Rav Chama bar Guria Marav. Rav Chama bar Guria says, "Name of Rav Minayin lavidas haKanani shemuteres." How do we know that if a Canaanite loses an item, you're allowed to keep it? Shenemar, it says, "L'chol avidas achicha." All the lost objects of your brother, lachicha tamachsu, to your brother you return. You tamachsu l'knani, but you don't return. You don't have to return to a knani. Maybe you don't specifically. If it's an idolater, then it probably means you specifically don't, because we're not supposed to allow the idolaters to continue. Maybe, how do you know that means that even though you've picked it up, when you walk by an item, if you see an item, you have an obligation to pick it up and to find its owner. So it becomes a huge obligation. If you find something on the street, now there goes your day. You gotta now schlep around to figure out whose it is. So that's if it's a Jew's item. But if it's clearly a non-Jew's item, at Salem, and I don't know, how do you know it's a non-Jew's item? You find that wreath that they put up on their door for Kratzmach.
Probably also like by the area. For example, in a neighborhood, it's probably like 50.
Oh, yeah. So then you don't have to return it. But the Gemara is suggesting that maybe you don't have to return it because you're allowed to walk by it. But how do you know? That you don't have to go find them. But once you've already picked it up, now it's too late. You were allowed to ignore it. But once you picked it up, maybe now you have to find the owner. Maybe you should have to return it. Some Ravina says a matzasa that you found. It says a chol avedus in that pasuk. It says a matzasa that you found the asali adi mashma. It's referring to even something that you've picked up already. That it's even in that case, even once you've picked it up, once you found it, matzasa means you found it. But the term finding doesn't just mean that you spotted it. It means also that you picked it up into your possession, and nevertheless, you still don't have to return it. Yeah, remember this Gemara for the first page of Mitzvah next week. Okay, it's in Rashi over there. Tanya, started in a brayser. Pinchas ben Yair Reimer. Pinchas ben Yair says there's a discussion if Pinchas ben Yair is a son-in-law of Reb Shimon bar Yochai or if he's a father-in-law of Reb Shimon bar Yochai. I think there's a difference between the Gemara and the Zayar.
This is the first time we've heard of him.
He was the one that his donkey didn't eat, remember, because of or it didn't work on Shabbos, or it didn't eat because the mice wasn't taken. I don't remember. He says, "B'makom sheish chil Hashem, if there's a chil Hashem, afilo avidasa yaser, then even if there's a chil Hashem, then you can't even keep the lost object." Yeah. You guys know that story with the desk. Jeff, we spoke about it once. There was a guy that bought a desk on Craigslist.
Oh yeah.
And there was money in the drawer. One of the drawers didn't close all the way. And so he took out the drawer after he got it from an old lady. Took out the drawer, and in the back it was $90,000 in cash. And it had fallen behind the drawer, so it wouldn't anyway, he asked Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky, should I return it? Because he knew who he bought it from. It was an old lady. So he said, yeah, you should return it. It would be a Kiddush Hashem. It was a big Kiddush Hashem. Yeah, I mean, he didn't have to return it.
Then what happened?
It was on the news. Yeah, you could search it up. So, $90,000 in the desk or something. I don't know how to search that. But anyway, so the big thing on the news was that this is before my time, but my grandmother told me about it. Was Feuerstein from Boston or Chicago or something? He had a big fire in his I think it was a schmata business or something, and he had a big fire and he paid his workers even though there was no work till they got it back running. That was a big deal. The news everyone was talking about. Made a big kiddush Hashem. Yeah.
Back to Phil's question about returning a lost object to a Gentile if they're a Noahide. Is that still obligated to return it? Like
I think
they
so.
follow the
Yeah,
mitzvahs, you know,
I think so.
I
think so. Hillel Jonathan is asking about, and Hillel are asking about, and Yitzi are asking about if someone's a Noachide, if you have to return his items as a Jew, or is he still under the category of a non-Jew? I think what the Paiskim say, this is not halacha share, but today I think, there's a lot of derogatory things in the Gemara about non-Jews, but the Paiskim say that the non-Jews today are considered Noachides, even though they don't actually follow all the Noachide laws, but they're not the idolaters of years ago.
Yeah,
that's what they say. Okay. Different, yeah, but different idols is it's like $1 is an idol, or exercise is an idol. Okay. Kiha, but we also have Kiddush and Cholent and all types of stuff. Kiha de Shmuel Zavan Mikuti, like Shmuel. Oh, I'm sorry. Amar Shmuel to Usay Moteres. Shmuel says that if he makes a mistake, that's permissible to keep. Kiha de Shmuel Zavan Mikuti. Shmuel bought from a kuti. Do you have kuti there? What do you have? Yeah, but it says kuti. Okay. Likana didhava, a golden bowl. Bimar de Pazla. I think when he thought that it was, Parzla means iron, but the Rashi says it's copper. I thought Parzla was Barzal. Anyway, it says that it was copper. So he bought it. It was really gold. A Gentile. Let me see in the Hebrew. Shmuel Zavan bin Goy. Yeah, it's over there. It's a guy, not a kuti. Yeah, it's all censored. Everything here is censored. So, after kuti, ArtScroll has the censored version. Yeah, the Steindotz is more critical. Goes back to. So
assume that they censored. Like we don't have.
Yeah,
it was lost. And just assumed it was censored,
yeah, but they find manuscripts. Yeah. So basically, this was a very expensive item. It was a golden bowl, but the guy didn't know that it was a golden bowl. He thought it was only copper. So he bought it from him. B'dalad zuzi for dalad zuz, v'b'lei chad zuzah. And okay, now according to Rashi, he didn't even pay him the full price. He only paid him three coins instead of 4. And he considered it his mistake. The other Rishonim learned this different. The other Rishonim learned that he gave him, instead of 4 coins, he gave him 5 coins. Was it more expensive? He didn't tell him that it was gold. He just gave him an extra coin. And when the guy's going to realize that, oh yeah, I lost the golden thing, that was the golden one, that wasn't the copper one, he's also going to say, oh, but he paid me extra. He's going to say, oh, this guy just doesn't know what he's doing. He's like a shlamazel. He paid me extra. He doesn't know gold and copper. He doesn't, so he won't take him as serious.
You gave me too much, you get it back.
He's never going to do that. No. But he's not going to also judge him that he was a thief, saying, because he's going to say he just doesn't know what he's doing. He even paid me too much. It's just doesn't have his act together.
Would any of these fall into the category of
Stumbling block? That's an interesting point. Does this go under Lifnei Yiver of Lifneiver would go into giving bad advice. I don't know.
But also, like if someone sells something and they don't know the actual value.
Over here he's saying someone sells something they don't know the actual value. You don't have to inform them of it if it's a non-Jew. That's what Shmuel is telling us. Yeah, people do this all the time in the flea market, not the flea market, and then these I think it's the flea market. They buy like people get these things from the States and stuff, and they just sell it off. Only these experts walk in and they find the treasures there, and the guy selling it doesn't know what he's selling. It's another something. Okay. Rav Kana Zavan Mikuti Meya Vesrim Chavita B'Meya. He bought from Mikuti 120 barrels as if it was only 100. B'Meya. Yeah, as if it was 100. And he put one extra zuz in there. Now the extra zuz could mean he put in the extra or he took one out. Amalei. Now, does it mean b'meya? No, b'meya means with 100 coins. That's what it means. B'meya means 100 coins, and he put in an extra coin or he took an extra coin out, depending on if you want to learn like Rashi or the other commentaries. Amalei, and Rav Kana tells him. Oh, now there's two interpretations here. One interpretation is Rav Kana tells him, Chazid alach kasamichna. I'm not counting it perfectly. I'm relying on you. You count it. Okay, so that's if you didn't pay him the full price. So he says, I'm relying on you. And that's how. The other way is that the guy tells Rav Kana, I'm relying on you. And Rav Kana didn't seem to matter. He let it pass, even though it wasn't the full price. Ravina, Zavan Dikla Hu Bekuti Letzalcha. Ravina, him and a Kuti in partnership, you're not supposed to be a partner with a non-Jew, because they'll swear. Partners have to swear to each other sometimes. It's this and that, and he'll end up swearing by his idol. Officially you're not supposed to be a partnership with a non-Jew. But anyway, they bought this tree together, and it was meant to chop it down for firewood. Amalei l'shamei, so he tells to his servant, his assistant, Kadam v'aisi mi ikrai. When you're dividing up the pieces, give me the ones that are closer to the roots, the trunk from the base. The kuti minyani yada, the kuti only knows the amount. He only looks at numbers, quantity. He doesn't look at the quality. So give me the better ones, and he'll just take the right amount, and I'll get the better ones. Okay, Ravashi avikasal ba'orcha. Ravashi was going on the road. Chaza shivsha de gufna bepardisa, betali bekitufe de inve. He saw twigs of grapes in an orchard, probably sticking out towards the road, and on it were clusters of grapes. Amalei l'shamei, he tells to his assistant, Zil chazi idakutininu icy. See, if it's from a non-Jew, then take it from me. Idi Yisraelin, but from a Jew, lay icy, don't take it. Oh, he gets into trouble. Shamahu kuti daviyasiv padisa. He didn't see next to the fence was the kuti was listening. He's in trouble now. Amalei the kuti shari. He says, "Oh, you're allowed to take from a non-Jew." Amalei. So Ravashi explained, "Kuti shakal dami. A kuti will be willing to take money from me, but Yisrael like shakal dami. Yisrael won't agree to take money from me. He's going to want to give it to me as a gift, and I don't want to take gifts. I only want to buy it, and the Jewish people give me a hard time. They want to give me everything for free." This is Ravashi here.
These the ones that have converted.
Yeah, but that's the term that we're using.
Yeah,
but
it's
originally it was a Gentile. Yeah, we self-censored the books. It wasn't censored. They didn't censor. We censored it before, or else they wouldn't allow us to print it.
Oh, they would burn our books.
Right. Ufa.
Still find things in there.
The rabbi say, "Oh, it's not that Yoshka. It's another one."
What are you finding right now?
What are you talking about?
Like
When they first we're putting Svarim on the internet. So Sansino Talmud they put on the internet. and it was put up by an anti-Semitic site. It was called "Come in Here," like something like that. Come here, and it was all just to attack the Gemara.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Gemara was there, so it was useful. Gufa, we learned before. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said, "Dina de Malchus Dina, the law of the land is the law." Amar Rava. Rava says, "Teda, I'll prove it to you." The Katli Dikli. It's interesting his proof. The Katli Dikli, the Gashri Gishri, Bavrin Nalayo. I'll prove it to you that the law of the land is the law, is just the fact that we're allowed to walk over bridges. Now, maybe you're not allowed to walk over bridges, but he says no. The fact that we walk over bridges every day is a proof that the law of the land is the law. Why? Because they cut down those trees. they took them from people. They built bridges, and we're allowed to go on those bridges. If the law of the land wasn't the law, then they stole those trees. We wouldn't be allowed to use the stolen bridge. They were wooden bridges. That's what it looks like. Amalei Abaya. Abaya says, "V'dilma mishum diyushalei ma'elu meinayu marayu." Maybe it's because the owners gave up hope. How do you know just that it's because they were allowed to do that? Maybe it's because they weren't allowed to do it, but the people that they took it from never imagined that they're going to get it back. Amarlei said, if the law of the land isn't the law, then the fact that they gave up hope would be nothing. Because if you're only relying on giving up hope, then that wouldn't be enough, because you don't have the Shini Rishus, because it's still in the public property. Yes, the public took it and it never changed hands. And what about the fact that they cut it up? So he says that originally it was called a palm tree, and now it's still called pieces of palm. We had a Gemara like that before. The chopped pieces of palm tree are still called palm. So it doesn't have a Shini Hashem either. It still has the same name. But like Avdi Kadamri Malka, boy, he said 1 second. But even the people that are doing this work, they're not even doing the way the king wanted it. They themselves aren't doing it properly. Says Malka Amar, the king said, Zilu Katlu Mikol Bagi. King said that you should go around and cut a tree from each forest. And but these guys, they're lazy workers, government workers. They cut it from one forest and they tell them to suffer. The king was said, cut a tree from each place, so we shouldn't make a big difference. It shouldn't make a. Sure, he doesn't want to destroy the whole forest.
Head tax.
Right. He says, let everyone give a tree. But they just said, why should we schlep? So Shlucha de Malka Kamalka. The Gemara answers that the messenger of the king, I like the king. And now those people that lost their forest because all the trees were cut down, they are the ones that lost out, because what they should have done is the boilo dinkat mikula bagi mishkal dami. They should have gone around to the whole area and said that I gave my trees for you, and everyone should pay me for that. But that's a schlep to go and do it and to bring everyone and to do that. But the fact that they didn't do it is their own loss.
Oh, so it's incumbent on them.
Yeah. Interesting, huh? Amarava, man de mishtakach bebeidari paramanta de malka. The guy that has his stuff still in the granary, the threshing floor, whatever. You see, the tax collector would come around and he would take tax from the grain or whatever. So there were partners, let's say several partners. Everyone took their stuff. The last guy was there stuck when the tax collector comes. So he takes tax for the whole thing, for everyone. So the guy that's found by this granary or the threshing floor, he pays the price to the king. And then what it means is that he has to go back to his friends and tell them that I paid it for you because my stuff was there. So he took it all from me. So now split it. Let's say there were 3 partners. So he would split it. He said, you two have to pay the 1/3 each.
If only his portion was left there, I'm guessing they would charge him for the tax for the portion that was there.
Yeah, but they charged for the for the size of the land, of how much grows there. And then they would, yeah. So they took for the size of the land, and they took it all from his one barrel. Okay, so
He doesn't have to charge a service charge to his colleagues when he's repaid, right? He just collects what he lost.
Like PayPal.
Right?
Like PayPal.
are you on PayPal? Are you allowed to say that it's for a friend when it's not really for a friend? When it's for an item, because they charge you a little fee if it's for friends and family. You know, you can click friends and family, or you do it for business. In business, they charge a little thing, but I always click friends and family if they let me. You know, why should I give them? But maybe it's not. Maybe it's a problem. Who does that money go to? Is that just PayPal? It's just PayPal. It's their own thing. So if I'm stealing from PayPal.
Do you think they charge less if they do that, or they just do that for counting purposes to say this much family?
I don't know. Anyway.
I haven't used it enough. I don't know.
Okay. It's funny because I wonder how many people push the for business. Is there any benefit to doing that? Oh, maybe they do it for taxes. Okay.
So people put their business, but it's tax deductible.
Right.
Family, they know. Maybe you should start collecting the other way then.
Yeah. Take it as a business expense every time you give a bar mitzvah gift. Okay. So
there's no fees on top.
so v'hani milishutva v'larisa risusu the kamapik. But now there's a problem over here. Let's say if it's an aris, then then it's different. Now I need to read the notes over there, but basically what's going to come out according to what's going to come out is that when they took from if the guy was a sharecropper, he wasn't an actual partner. If it was a sharecropper, then he when they took from him for the owner of the property as well, they weren't allowed to do that. With partners, they can take from one partner and he goes and gets it. But when he takes from him for the owner as well, that they weren't allowed to do. And therefore, if someone wants to buy from the tax collector grain, that grain is considered stolen. But let's take a look. 1 second. What does it say over here? But he has no rights of ownership in the land. Therefore, he has no obligation to pay the owner's share of the tax. And if it's collecting from him, it constitutes robbery, which he does not. And as such, he is not obligated under the laws of the kingdom to pay the tax. Now we're learning the kingdom's tax laws. And certainly not to lay out the owner's payment. See, Rajbo explains that it was not in the king's interest to levy the tax on sharecroppers. If the tax collector does seize the sharecropper's set portion of the produce, it is stolen property. One may not buy it from, like we said, that's Rashi. Then they say if the sharecropper can claim compensation from the landowner, you have to look up some other notes. Okay. Ve'amar Rava. Rava says, Barmasa miyabis. The tax collector is allowed to take a tax from one person in the city for another person of the city. And then basically he has to go to the other guy and say, I paid your tax. You weren't home. The guy knocked on your doors. He made me pay for you. Right?
Yeah, I know today.
No, really?
The property, they sell a tax certificate. So someone goes and pays the taxes on the other person's behalf. They get a certificate and then they collect that certificate.
But is there any benefit to doing that?
The interest.
Hanimili Dibarla Ara, the Kagadai Shata. These are two types of taxes. It's either it's a property tax and it's a head tax of this year. Aval Shata de Chalev. But if it's a tax from last year, Hayil ve'fayes malka Chalev. You see, what the tax collector is doing is he's saying, I was here last year, you didn't pay the last year's tax. And I didn't get all the extras because the tax collector gets the extras from every person that he collects. So now he's coming back to get last year's tax as well. So he wants to take extra. Now the truth is that since the tax was already given in last year, the king isn't looking for that. So the tax collector is just stealing. So he's not allowed to do that for last year. And like Rashi said, that if you try to purchase something from this guy, you're going to end up having stolen property. Amar Rava, Hani de Dairi Dari B'Teichatchum Asalikach Mem. Now, what's happening here is that there would be animals that they would create these makeshift pens. They would bring them into your property, the animals into the property with a pen, and the animals would fertilize the property, and then they would move the pen around, right? They would fertilize the property. They would let them live there for I don't know how long, a few days, a few weeks, whatever, and they would move them around. Now the question is, if it's within the tchum, if it's within the city where everyone's living and all of that, then where the houses are, then you're not allowed to buy animals from them. My timer, because they grab animals from the city and they mix them into their herd, and they're stealing these people. But if it's outside the city, you're allowed to buy animals from them. That's different. Because we have the Gemara could have said that the guys with the carpets in the subway station, they roll out the thing with all the watches or ties or something, then they quickly roll it up when they hear someone's coming.
This has nothing to do with Kalayim.
No, this is not Kalayim. This is just buying animals from people that may have stolen them. Amar Ravina, Ravina says, if there's people that are running after them, chasing after them, you have my animals, you're not allowed to buy from them either, even though they're outside the Tchum. Machriz Rava, V'itema Rav Huna. Rava, or some say it was Rav Huna, made this announcement: the Salkan Leila V'Nachten L'Tzata, those that are going up to Eretz Yisrael and those that are going down to Bavel. Hi Bar Yisrael, the other Sadus Lakuti. If there's a Jewish person that knows testimony about another Jew on behalf of a Kuti, and we take out let's take that out. The Gra takes it out. And he goes and he testifies on behalf of the Kuti for his Jewish friend in a non-Jewish court. We put him in Cherem. My time, what's the reason? You see, the problem here is the guy actually owed money. So what's he doing wrong? He owes money, pay it. Doesn't want his Jewish friend to be a thief. But he went to a non-Jewish court. And we only say that this is an issue if he was only a single witness. I will betray, but if he was it was part of a second witness, him and another person, then that's not a problem. And also with one person, it's not a problem. That's only if it's in the village courts. I will beidaver, but if it's in the court by where the ruler is, Inunami, they also chad amumsa shadulei. If there's only one witness, they'll only make them swear. So the problem over here is that although the Jewish person owes money to the non-Jew, for real, but since the court wouldn't be able to get that money, when he goes and testifies in the court, he's actually causing that this court relies on one witness, which is not the Jewish law to rely on one witness. He's causing that this person has to pay him, the Jewish person has to pay the non-Jew, not according to the law.
The law of the land is the law. The law of the land is that one witness is okay in a Gentile court.
I don't know the answer to that. That's the professor's asking, but the law of the land is law, and if the law of the land is that one witness works, then that should be the law. There's a difference. There's a difference. I have to I'm not sure how to articulate it, but there's a difference between the law of the land is law, and the law in the court is the law of the land is the law. Had to do what we've been seeing so far is all tax laws. The law of the land is the law. That when they take our taxes, that's considered honest. And yeah. The difficulty here, which they're not discussing. Oh, the entire discussion pertains to a witness who is not sure whether the Jew against whom he is testifying is actually liable. He knows the Jew borrowed money from the Kutan, but does not know whether it was repaid. If, however, he is certain that the Jew is liable, he is forbidden to withhold his testimony for the Kutin, although it would be effective only on the Kutin law. That's the rivet. Okay, that's a big difference. That's a big. He's forbidden to withhold.
If he knows
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Okay, they quote the rivet cited by Rajba and Shita Mekabetzis and Iri Yam Suslaim at Pislei Tshuva. It's also Rama. Yeah, that's a big difference.
The Ben Ish Kai told a story about an Arab that brought a case to the Beis Din and claimed that a certain Jew owed him money, wouldn't pay it. And that was all the testimony there was. And the Ben Ish Kai concluded that the Jew was lying.
The Jew was lying.
Yeah. He said he didn't know the money. And so Ben Ish Kai paid it himself.
Wow.
And then years later, something happened and that Arab saved his life when he was on his way to Israel.
Oh, wow.
Schmuck story.
Yeah, where did you read that?
That I don't remember.
The Ben Ish Chai has these great parables, but those are his stories that he has like examples that he's using to make teachings, lessons. But he has really amazing parables. If you ever get a hold of like parables from the Ben Ish Chai or something. Okay. Okay, we did that. Amar Ravashi, Kiavina Be Rav Huna. Ravashi says, when I was in the house of Rav Huna, this Ravashi wasn't in the house of Rav Huna. This must be Rav Kana. Kiavina Be Rav Kana. Ravashi felt his teacher was Rav Kana. What does it say in the art school? I'm curious. It says Rav Huna or Rav Kana?
I'm thinking, right?
Oh. But do you have Rav Huna or Rav Kana? You have Rav Huna as well? Okay, and then maybe there's a different Rav Huna. Ibayalan, he asked us a question. Adam Chashiv the Samchila Kebeitrei. An important person that the people would rely on him as if he's two witnesses. Mafki Memayna Pumayo, Vulayibayle Lasude. I guess this is referring to even in the city courts, they would extract money based on him. And he should not be testifying, because when he testifies, he's going to change the law because it's going to not change the law. They're going to not go according to the law because he's so important. This is an interesting question. Maybe he's because he's an important person, he's not going to be able to get away from the court because he's not just like a regular stranger or something. He's important. He's going to he won't be able to avoid this, and he should testify. So it's really like, is this a question of a life and death type of question? It's like interesting how this question is being posed. Teiku, they leave it as a question.
It's your machine.
Machine?
Yeah,
Naftali? You have any comment on that? The professor's asking you. Okay. Teiku. Amar Ravashi. Ravashi says, Hi Bar Yisrael, Dezavan Leyar Lev Chav Mitzvah Bar Yisrael Chavri. Let's say there was a Jewish person that sold a piece of property to a non-Jew, but it was bordering the property of a Jew. Mishamtinan lay. They put him in Cherem. My time, what's the reason? Mishamtina de Bar Metzra. Do we say that he violated the rules of Bar Metzra? Bar Metzra means that if you have a property and your neighbor has a property and there's a property in between that, let's say your neighbor owns or something, he should not sell it to a third party. He should offer it to you first. That property, you should offer it to the neighbor first. So that way, you'll be able, if you need to buy a property, you don't have to buy a property somewhere else, and then all the equipment and everything. It's easier to have it all in one spot. So that's called Dina de Bar Metzra. So now he's
with your own house, right? You get right to first refusal to.
Right. So if What's the problem over here? He sold it to a non-Jew. So Mishum Dina de Bar Metzra, Mishum Dina de Bar Metzra. But 1 second, we have a rule that if someone's buying from a non-Jew or if someone's selling to a non-Jew, then there's no law of Bar Metzra. What happened is the neighbor saying, because he let a non-Jew live here, he basically put a lion right on my border. And we put him in Chayrim until he agrees to accept on himself any future problems that are going to come because this non-Jew is living there. Take off for the Shabbos guy, some help. But he has to accept on himself like a lien that should anything happen because of that sale, he should have to pay it. Let's say tax collectors took his donkey and gave him another donkey, right? Not to list him as let's say robbers. They took his coat and they gave him another coat, probably cheaper. He's allowed to keep the new one that they gave him. Because the original owner that owned that donkey, that owned that coat, has given up. If someone rescues something from a overflowing river, or a gaius is like, I think, soldiers that are coming through, troops, or from robbers, if the owners have given up hope, he's allowed to keep them. He'll keep what he rescued because the owners gave up hope. Also, what happens is the bees in the summer, they swarm the hive gets too full. So a group of bees make a new queen and they go fly to make a new hive somewhere. So what they'll do is they'll hang on a tree, right? And they swarm together. It's incredible when you see it. So if the original owner that just lost half his bees has given up hope, Ariel Shalai, then the new guy that has a beehive now in his thing is it's wonderful. Some people call it the exterminator. Other people say this is great. They get a box and they put it in, and now they have a beehive. So it depends if you're a city or whatever. I'm Rabbi Yechon Bebreka.
Unincorporated day.
If you're unincorporated day. I'm Rabbi Yechon Bebreka, and a woman is or a child is believed to say that the swarm came from that hive. How do you know whose hive it came from? You just see a bunch of bees hanging on a tree, but you can trust someone saying, "I saw them all flying out of there." Usually not, but over here we trust them. Yeah, like a trivia question. When else do you trust them? The husband died or something. You're allowed to go into your friend's property to save your hive. But if you cause damage doing that, you have to pay for the damages. You can't cut off the guy's grapevine. What they would do is like this. If it's on a branch, what they would do is they would just chop the branch and cut it and put it to size, and then they would put it in a box and move it wherever they want to move it. But you're cutting the person's branch. So you're cutting his tree. So if he has an old grapevine, you're not allowed to cut the old thick branches, because that's too much damage just for the hive. Rabbi Shmuel ben Breker, he says no. If you're going to pay for it, you're allowed to cut it. Tana was taught in a brayso. We said before that if you take a donkey you're allowed to take the donkey from the tax collector. But the brayso says that if you take it, you're supposed to give it back to the original owner of that donkey. Because the fact that he gave up hope, that's not enough. And it came into his hands through, it was prohibited. So that's one opinion. Ikadamri, there's another opinion that says, if you come to return, not that you have to return, but if you do return, then you return to the original owner. It's my time of Yish Kadikani. The reason is, why don't you actually have to? Just what do you do? The reason is because Yish Kadi, the Yish alone does acquire it. However, even though he does acquire it, but if he says, I don't want items that aren't really mine, then he returns it to the original owners. We have time for it to go further? No, let's leave it over here. Ariel Shalai. Okay.
Go to the two dots.
We go to the two dots. I'm there at the two dots. Ariel Shalai.
Okay.
Do you have another two dots somewhere?
Okay, let's stop here.
And I would like to go to the two dots on the next page, but okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, have a good day.
Have a good day. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Well, does it look like we'll be meeting Thursday night or?
Yeah, I think we'll be meeting Thursday night, and we'll still be behind,
Right.
and we'll probably start on Monday the new Masechta. Sunday night, hopefully it's a CM.
I heard you. Who's doing this?
Yeah,
Marina en español.
Yosef Naftali,
See?
you
What's
did the
that?
CM.
What?
Okay, whoever does it, you should care.
Have a good day.
No, Sunday, can you do the seal?